Hello everyone, and welcome to this new video where we go together. The incredible myths and legends surrounding the Poltergeist film series. In 1982, the movie Poltergeist was released in all movie theaters, and it was going to be a huge success. This movie tells the story of an American family who allegedly inhabit a house built above a cemetery, and their lives are turned upside down by supernatural manifestations at the time. The movie will scare the world. But the reality will look just as terrible. A terrible series of events will happen for the filming of each film in this saga. Everything will start in the first movie with the young boy of the family who was called Robbie in the movie, who was falsely to be strangled for the filming of a scene. But the special effects people who had built the doll and manipulated it through movies will have gone a little too far, and when filming the scene, they'll actually strangle the little boy on the set. A man will have passed very close to losing his life. Then there would be a scene that was filmed in the basement of the house. There must have been skeletons coming up from the mud to create a macabre scene. And in reality, while the actors weren't even warned, it turned out that there were real human skeletons. Although for now, these aren't actually paranormal phenomena, but rather bizarre events staged by the production. The tragedy will really begin in 1982, when the little girl who plays the eldest daughter of the family is found savagely murdered by her companion, and what is even more horrific, and when the companion was tried, he confessed that he had put the first film, Poltergeist, on full blast, to stifle the seizures of his companion who was dying. However, despite all the events that will happen on the first set, and the tragedy that occurred after the production of this film, they will still decide to produce a second film, Poltergeist. But this time, the production team will decide to choose a new location. This new place is full of history. There is a terrifying atmosphere, and to avoid any problems, they will even call in a priest for them to come and practice an exorcist to cleanse the house among the actors. They will even hire a shaman so they can practice many ceremonies during the film, and calm the spirit so he can't do anything about it. On the other hand, the different ceremonies will not be enough, because unfortunately for him, the shaman died sometime after the shooting of the film in strange circumstances. Then it would be around the actor who played the Reverend to also die under strange circumstances only a few days later. However, once again, despite everything that will happen on the set and after the set, the second Poltergeist will also be a huge success. Of course, production doesn't want to stop there. He will not pay any attention to the curse and decide to put a film into production again. During the filming of the movie Poltergeist 3, the little girl who played the main role will die suddenly during the filming of a scene, and it will be this ultimate tragedy, which will put an end to the series of films considered modest by the director himself. In total, there will be 4 main actors who will have died in strange circumstances or after shooting one of the film's Poltergeist stay. Is it just a coincidence or a real curse? We may never know the truth about this strange case. This story takes place in Washington, the capital of the United States. In 1949, in a small neighborhood near the White House, a strange story will happen. These will be horrible screams that will be heard more and more regularly and always coming from the same house. The owners give as an explanation that it is their son and that they are simply having big fits, except that the phenomena will repeat themselves very regularly, and after a while, they will be forced to admit that it is a phenomenon that they cannot explain. To them, it would seem that there is a presence revolving around their son and that they would torment him. Still, this family was reputed to be very friendly and never made a fuss in the neighborhood. Many neighbors will then mobilize to try to help them, but unfortunately, it will not give anything. On the other hand, during this investigation, some neighbors will testify and say they have seen objects moving on their own. Many claim that they saw the bed move around the room when there was only the little boy, and that they would not have had the strength to move it on their own. As many others admit that they are certain that it is the little boy who moves the objects, but they do not really know how. Some even report that the little boy was able to levitate objects just by looking at them, and in the face of these demonstrations. More worryingly, many will push parents to ask them for help from a pastor. After some time, the parents will end up accepting because they cannot manage this phenomenon. The pastor, who is very skeptical at the base, will propose to keep the boy at his home for several days to see if the phenomena also happen and if he can do something about it. And from the first day, the pastor will report having lived through hell. He heard screams coming from nowhere, objects moved on their own, and he is certain the phenomenon is related to the boy. But he can't explain it either. Suddenly he will explain to them that it would be better for them to go to a nearby church because he has no solution, and after several interviews with a new pastor, he will also go to the house. He will be able to observe paranormal phenomena. For this new pastor, for sure, this is a true case of diabolical possession or demonic possession, and for him it is important to practice an exorcist rite on the boy. Parents will have no choice but to accept. During this exorcism, they will tie the boy to the bed and sprinkle him with blessing. Then the pastor will begin to recite different passages from the Bible to drive out the demon that possessed the boy's body. This ritual will last several weeks and several newspapers will mention it. This story will attract many curious people, and to avoid that it is too publicized and that everyone can come and see the priest. Ask him questions. The church will come up with the idea of giving them a wrong address, so that people, in fact, they were going to a neighboring town, never really found the house in this way. They would have succeeded in protecting the child, prevent false rumors from spreading. On the other hand, there are still many who will investigate this story, and for the people of the neighborhood. When the film The Exorcist was released in 1973, they were convinced that this film would indeed tell the story of this little boy who had been possessed by the devil. For them, the fact that in the movie it's a little girl and not a little boy would also be there to protect the family that lived the original story, and most of the elements that would have been lived in this movie would have actually been lived in this family. Traumatized by this story, the family kept anonymity for many years, and the little boy never told this story in his entire life for over 40 years. Anneliese Michel is a little girl who would have lived in Kingdenberg, a small town in Germany, more than 40 years ago now. At the time, she was a normal little girl, like all little girls. She loved to run, sing, and have fun. She was a very smart girl. And all these teachers put them in school. But it is at the age of 18 that his fate will be troubled. Anneliese Michel, a teenager, is going to be taken by inexplicable convulsions. These seizures will go hand in hand with tremors, loss of control, or loss of consciousness. Several doctors will be called to examine her, and Anneliese Michel will then be diagnosed with epilepsy. Doctors will then take her to the hospital for many months, and after several months back home, her health condition will worsen. The girl will then begin to sink into madness, as if she were returning to a parallel world. Soon she will say she hears voices and she likes to read. In the evening, she would see the different apparitions in the room, the diabolical faces. He showed everything. The more time passes, the more his state of health worsens. She even goes so far as to say that she starts talking regularly with the devil, and more horrible screams of horror. In the evening, she would throw herself on the furniture and throw herself on the floor. The next morning, when her parents went to see her, she was covered in blue. Panicked and terrified, his parents will then appeal again to many doctors, but no medication or treatment will manage to relieve his madness. Desperate one night, and not knowing what to do, his parents call an exorcist. This exorcist priest will confess that more than 40 years later, he will never forget what he experienced that night, and will confess that he has never met another case so terrible, that of the little girl Anneliese. The first time he met him, he just wanted to make sure it was a case of possession. He would therefore have addressed Anneliese as if it were a diabolical spirit that had taken possession of the girl. And here are the recordings that were made during this exorcism. The priest will make them many prayers to discover the name of this demon and get him out of this body. And after a while, Anneliese is going to get up in a mad rage, and it is the demon that was in her that is going to speak for the priest. He had never seen such a case, and he says it is impossible that it is a madman, that he can perform such a maneuver. The tone of voice had changed so much that he was convinced it was a case of devil possession. The press will also take up the case and tell that Anneliese would be possessed by the devil, while others will simply suggest that it is a little schizophrenic girl. Unfortunately, day after day, Anneliese's state of health deteriorated, and from 1975, she was forced to undergo daily exorcism sessions in order to get the demons out of her body during these exorcism sessions. Sometimes it will take 4 to 5 people to successfully master it. Some witnesses will report that when the demons took possession of his body, his strength was increased tenfold, and many priests will even report that the situation became uncontrollable, and that the demons managed to express themselves. Yet, despite all his exercise sessions, no one can calm his follies. No doctor or priest will succeed in healing her, and little by little, Anneliese will decide to stop eating. She refuses to leave her room to avoid hurting anyone, and that anyone can hurt her. So is this really a case of demonic possession, or just a mental illness? We will never know, and she won her secret with her death. That's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to tell me in the comments, and if you have other topics like that you want me to cover in my next videos. In the meantime, you can still like, share and subscribe. We will meet again in the next video. Who was Coinfire? Peace out.